Hey everyone, welcome to the 458th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patrons Jerry Windley Doust, Brian Lorenzo, Bo Barrett, and one of our very favorites, Tony Capastione. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Enlow. This is our first Matt and Oren episode of 2025. It's nice to do an early kind of like deep dive on where we're at, where we're headed, and how we're changing things up to kind of, just make the most of the 2025. I'm genuinely excited. We're also recording this on January 6th, which I said with weird importance. But the reason I bring it up is not because of an infamous riot at the Capitol, though I found out about the insurrection with you on the phone with Black Magic. Do you remember? It's a weird tangent.
We were talking to Black
Magic about sponsorships, and the rep, Terry, shout out Terry, he was like, something weird's happening at the Capitol. I gotta go. And we were like, okay, hope to work with you soon. Oh, anyway, January 6th is the first Monday of the school year, effectively. Or you had your kids were at camp, and you kind of you're more. I've been waiting for this day.
Trust me.
But you had some real parenting time where your kids were occupied by other people. So the last 2 weeks, it's been me and my wife and my kid 100% of the time. I called you one time when I went to Target like 2 days ago, and that was literally the only alone time I have had.
Yeah. And you just kept saying, send help, send help.
Yeah. I was like, can you read the Morse code I'm blinking to you? And you said, no, you're driving. We're on the phone. Yeah. It's been a lot.
Yeah.
Also, this is TMI, but we started potty training. We call it potty learning now.
Oh,
so we were cooped up.
Wait, are you serious? The word learning is just a little less aggressive than training?
Yeah. I'm not training my kid. She's learning how to use a potty. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm not like, oh, don't say training in front of her. But yeah, I like it. Anyway, the reality is the way that we were doing it, I was like, okay, no more diapers. And so we're just going to keep an eye on her until we see signs that she needs to use the restroom. And then we're going to go get her to go over there. But you can't leave because she's still like trying to figure things out. So there's lots of accidents. The point is,
it's like a 24/7
You're just like,
thing.
Are you pooping? Yeah. Are you pooping? Are you pooping?
Yeah. Do you also do the thing where you're like giving her like popsicles and apple juice and like just trying to fill them up with liquid?
So that they can respond to Anyway, so the point is, I've been going a little crazy, and I really have been looking forward to today, and I felt pretty great, honestly. It was nice just to have like a little bit of time in front of my computer. Woke up early. It started mapping out the year, figuring things out, diving deep. So I'm excited for this episode.
Cool, yeah. And before we get into it, I feel like I said Tony Capastione is one of our favorite patrons. After listing 4 patrons, I mean, you guys are all our favorites, okay? Bo Barrett.
What you mean is that Bo's great.
I see you on Instagram.
Tony, we've met in person. Is what you're
Tony's
saying.
Also like, as far as patrons go, he's put multi-hundreds of dollars into this podcast. I hope, Tony, you're not listening, because then you'd be like, oh, damn, I forgot to cancel that
Please
subscription.
don't cancel Tony. I do get nervous when people are like, wait, how much have I contributed over the decade of podcasting we've been doing?
Yeah, I canceled my Apple TV Plus subscription today. It's like $10 a month.
Cares? What? Why did you have it?
I don't know. Ted Lasso? I have no idea, but it's
Ted Lasso.
So expensive. For nothing,
for nothing.
Shows that they don't even market. I mean, when Severance comes back, of course, I'll turn it back on. But now,
I didn't lock into Severance. So, maybe when it's back, we'll give it another shot. But
it's really good. You should watch it.
I think I watched the pilot and was like, I know something's gonna happen. I don't have the patience to like
the pilot. Do they even call them pilots anymore?
Episode 1.
Okay, well, let's get into our topics of conversation. Starting with
before we do that, Oren. I drank all my magic mind way too fast.
Yeah,
and now
you drank all 15 in the first day.
Did you ever see that movie Limitless?
Who are we potty training? I have seen Limitless. I think it's pretty good. Bradley Cooper.
Or there's a couple other like Unlock Your Brain.
Oh yeah, Lucy.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? She drew
Lucy, Luc Besson,
a bunch of drugs.
Real Euro trash, all about it.
That movie was incredibly bad. I could not make it through it in the movie theater. I was just like,
wait, you left the movie theater?
I was like, should I? I was just halfway through. I was just telling my wife, like, she's only unlocked 42% of her brain, so 52%. What? And then who? Yeah, It's just like, I have high tolerance for stupid movies, but that, like,
how do you feel about Luc Besson? Do you know his other movie? Do you like Fifth Element?
yeah,
And you like
Fifth Element and the Professional, yeah. But there's this scene where freaking Morgan Freeman is like talking about the potential of your brain. It's just like you could take like the biggest, like a flat earther, and they would write a better summary of how the brain works.
So, do you remember the movie Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, Oren?
I remember it coming out, but I didn't see it.
And it is truly bad. And I love it. Yeah.
I watched this like...
that might be... I don't believe in guilty pleasures. That might be my actual guilty pleasure, is that movie.
Interesting. I watched this... I mean, we're on such a tangent, but I watched this masterclass of Aaron Sorkin teaching how to write TV shows. It was a masterclass, I think, on Masterclass, like years ago.
Sure. Yeah, and kind of like launch title, basically.
Yeah. And he talks about this thing that you should do in the first episode of a show where you're creating a world, right? Let's say your world takes place, it's like detectives or spies or flight attendants or government secret agents, and you have a scene on an airplane and a body, a dead body comes, somebody opens a bathroom and there's a dead body there. And then the flight attendant comes over and is like, oh, get the medikit and let's call the tower or whatever at the airport, and they'll tell us what to do. And then he says you basically just need to give like a few details that are like, hey, I've done my research into this world. Just do something to show the audience that you know more than them about this world so that they trust you.
Your work. Show your work is what he's saying.
Yeah, just create some believability. You just ate 4 pounds of lion's mane and ashwagandha. Now you can, your brain goes beyond existence.
Talk about a segue, Oren. Are you on Magic Mind Talk now?
I saw this interesting thread on Twitter today from this guy at It's Ol Lehman.
I love this.
And he's done everything. Ritalin, something called modafinil, I've never heard of. Coffee, alpha GPC, methylene blue, shrooms microdosing, LSD microdosing. And then the 8th thing he mentions is lion's mane. And he goes, subtle yet effective. My anxiety dips a bit and focus improves noticeably. No tunnel vision, just clean, clear thinking. And being 100% natural is a huge plus. Brain health benefits are icing on the cake. I love the gentle boost in cognitive function. Then he has a few others, yerba mate, kratom, like a couple of things that are kind of addictive. And so he tries to not use them too much.
Yeah, you're saying like, oh, you're going to take it when it counts rather than like in the middle of a hectic multitasking sort of day. So like you're optimizing for time when you can really feel the benefits and concentrate. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was kind of taking it in the morning right before I'm like getting the kids ready for gymnastics. I'm driving the car and I'm doing this. Times where honestly I'd rather not be focused. So now I'm trying to move it more to like nighttime, or afternoon use. And so far so good. It's been cool. So yeah, if people that listen to our show that know me personally text me and like they're like, is this Magic Mind thing for real? And I tell them,
And you don't have to take our word for it. It's doctor validated. They've done like 200 scientific studies. It's not just some weird guy on the internet and then also us. Also, I'm reading here in the brief, it says they use nano encapsulation technology. If you go to magicmind.com/shootitjan, that's a link that automatically gives you 45% off the Magic Mind bundle, or you can always use promo code SHOOTIT. magicmind.com/shootitjan is the link that'll get you there. And if you use one of those promo codes, that keeps us going, honestly. So if you're sick of us talking about Magic Mind, we'll focus up a little bit more, but it's been really fun. So without any further delay, let's talk about Patreon. Patreon.com/justshootitpod is a place where you can throw us a buck or two.
When producers send you like a calendar, like 2.5 months on it of like schedules, like, hey, we're going to do callbacks and then we're going to do auditions, then we're going to do boards and then you're going to do first cut is due and then the mix and then mix notes. Like, do you ever read any of that stuff? Or are you just like
100% I do.
Cool. No.
100%.
I told the producer yesterday, he's like, hey, it said we're delivering yesterday the third mix of the second cut.
I'm mad when it changes.
Oh, I'm like, I told the producer, I'm like, there's no director that ever read this thing. I just put shoot dates and that's about it, right?
Nah, dog. I put anything that I am on the hook for. So edits for sure. Like, I don't care about like when they're wrapping out or like things like that. But like, when's the PPM? Here's what I don't want to like ask somebody, hey, when's the PPM? When's whatever? this deadline, that done. I don't have to ask any of that stuff. They sent me the thing so I can look it up myself. So I'm self-reliant. So that's why I'm annoyed when things shift and I don't get updated or whatever. Or that's an out-of-date calendar.
I told the producer, for me, it's like a beautiful mind. It's just like all these equations. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I don't care when the third notes from the client are due, But okay, well, I guess not all directors are
disregard the stuff that you don't need, but yeah, I want to know the stuff that I need to know. You need to know more than just the shoot date, Oren.
I mean,
that stuff.
Casting, I care about casting, scouting,
fitting,
boards, shoot date, fitting.
Yeah.
I don't really care about anything after the shoot. To be honest,
maybe that's all on the calendar.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, let's talk about 2025 for a second. I mean, I know we did a whole freaking 2-part episode on it, but I did this thing. I noticed this year, and I believe that it is different this year than previous years. I could be wrong. Just I'm on social media a lot this past week for some reason. But I feel like every freaking company owner, filmmaker, photographer, DP put out a post that was like, 2024 was a great year. I did this. Here's all the things I accomplished. Here's stills of everything. I actually saw Vince Peony of art class, put do a whole carousel on Instagram, 10 different set photos. And I was like, God, he was one of the first people I saw it. And then I just saw more and more people doing it. I'm like, it's so lame. Like, am I even supposed to look at what all the things you did that I barely know you over this year? And then of course I was just like, fuck it. I'll make my own thing. Here's my jobs. I edited together. I spent a whole freaking night right after. It was after we recorded the panel.
You had some magic mind.
I had some magic mind. And I put this video because, you don't have much to post in the middle of vacation. And also I noticed I hadn't posted anything on my grid since January or something.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, I guess end of the year, I'll just post 2 or 3 shots from every shoot I've done with a little BTS.
And it's what I have planned after we're done recording.
Yeah. So my question was it feels so self-indulgent, but everyone is doing it, which makes it seem even less valuable. But then I did it and I got a lot of responses, but not necessarily the type of responses you would want.
Tell me more.
Most of my responses I posted on Instagram, and most of the responses were other directors reaching out to me saying
how have you worked so much?
Either can you introduce me to your reps, or how are you managing your schedule with your family and doing this thing? Or do you have any pitching tips? I know you do in my...
You're yes, I have a whole freaking podcast.
Yeah. In my video, I had some breakdowns and pitch ideas and things that I included in there. Can you walk me through your process of how you do this? And it's my job, my goal in this wasn't to get a bunch of other directors to ask me. I mean, I don't mind questions. I love questions. I ask other directors questions.
That's why you have a podcast, right?
But all of a sudden it's 10 directors. Hey, can we grab coffee so I can pick your brain?
Sure.
But then I did a Matt move, which is
posted it on LinkedIn.
Well,
so hold on. I want to talk about LinkedIn, but a couple things to unpack. And I'm really glad we're talking about this because I'm literally going through... this is the reason my post isn't live yet, is because I was just literally what value does this add, right? And it ties into not just this post, but in general, messaging as a director is this really fraught thing for us because you're trying to generate awareness, right? That's the goal. The reason you post, you said, oh, but there's not much to post at the end of the year. You're trying to stay top of mind for the people who can hire us, right? That is the point of... You're trying to generate awareness. So saying hey, I'm busy. I did all of this work has intrinsic value to people who can hire you. Oh, Oren's in demand. Oren's an in-demand director. I want to hire him more. However, you don't want to come off as a braggart, right? Or tone deaf,
not humble or whatever.
Or just honestly not additive, right? There's a lot of negative things. A lot of people are bragging all the time on the internet. Sure.
And
we don't want to do that. But also just that bad conversationalist, right?
Yeah. And also I have full awareness that 2024 was a quite shitty year for many film professionals.
Yeah. So that's a really hard thing to hazard. And again, that's why I haven't posted mine yet. It's okay, I did a lot of different things this year. At least you're consistent where you're hey, here are the commercials I made. Here's the podcasting achievements that I had, right?
Yeah. I did sneak in my daughter's second place in the champions of the AYSO soccer.
Sure. There you go. My stuff, it's like I show ran a season of a hit podcast. I produced an Amazon show. I also shot some commercials. We also hit 450 episodes of this podcast. It's just so scattershot. Even saying it out loud, that's not interesting. Do you know what I mean?
I suspect that you don't shoot as much behind the scenes as I do.
Yeah, look, the podcast that I was show running, I wasn't having fun. Like you shoot BTS when you're having fun, and I shouldn't say this out loud, but I wasn't having fun.
I don't think so. One person will listen to this. That matters. But
hi, Dad. I wasn't.
But I think, because I know that whether I'm happy with the final product of what I make or not, if I shoot some behind the scenes stuff, at least I usually shoot it of like a cool dolly move or a funny performance or an interesting lighting setup.
And that is, don't take this the wrong way, but it is a way of being additive or showing the work, educating in some way. It's like the lightest lift, smallest example of educating that you can do, which is additive, is valuable. It's just teeny tiny, right?
Yeah, and it just like is a thing that I feel like is more me than actually the final product.
Sure,
especially when you have clients and agency and stuff.
To my earlier point, is more additive to the conversation than just look at all the things I did.
Yeah,
right. Like you're layering up basically, and I think I was going to say lucky. It's not lucky. It's hard earned. You've figured that out over the years, right? Like when we started this show, you weren't posting BTS, and now it's as important for your awareness, frankly, more important than to your brand and the awareness of people that people have of you. Like those breakdowns,
Yeah, but also anytime I'm on set, I'm always thinking like, what could I shoot? I don't know if this will make me seem like this is an unattractive thing, but I'm always thinking, what behind the scenes thing could I shoot today that I could post tonight that will not get me in any trouble with anyone on this set?
I've talked about this a couple of times. I don't think it's talking at a school, but Peter Tenzio, who directed Key and Peele, he always had his Instagram was so cool because they were shooting 2 awesome, super cinematic sketches a day. You know what I mean? And so he was always shooting the coolest BTS photo of each day. I was just like, this is so awesome. And he got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, dude, you can't do that.
Yeah. I've been asked to bring things down. The one thing I posted this year was like me on a dolly being pulled away from like an LED wall where this like explosion was happening. And I was like, it's me on a dolly on an LED wall with an explosion. Like, I doubt we're the first people to ever do this. It does no product, no actors. It was like a rehearsal with like stand-ins, and they're like, "No, you can't show." I'm like, "But what am I showing?" And they're like,
I think you just wait till it's live,
right?" But sometimes things are never live.
I've still got a spot that hasn't been broadcast yet.
But you have posted some photos from that.
I have.
I've seen.
But I don't think to your point.
No, I don't think you didn't give away anything.
Yeah, like there's like a cool costume and some cool casting and stuff. Yeah, no, that stuff is
characters, product. So anyhow, I think the other thing I've been doing is like shooting everything vertically, because basically I'm designed for like Instagram stories, and then the problem comes when you edit a video at the end of the year and you want to intercut it with the final product, which is all 16:9. So now my video is just like half black bars on the sides.
So, Oren, you did a big recap of 2024. You posted it on social media. What did you learn from that post?
Yeah. Well, I took every shoot I had this year and took 1 or 2 shots, with 1 or 2 BTS shots, put them together. And I put the month that I shot them in because I felt like when I give a presentation, it's always good to give some sort of guideposts. But the other thing I did on Instagram is I tagged every single DP and every single production designer and every single producer that I worked with on every single job. And I tagged the companies also. And so Instagram, I don't think there's a limit on how many people you can tag.
I think there is, but...
Oh, I didn't hit it. It must have been like 100 people that I tagged. And so, at the very least, those people are like, oh, Oren acknowledged that I did this thing with him. And sometimes, I worked with a lot of different people this year. And sometimes I'm worried that they think, oh, he just hired me once and he'll never hire me again. And the fact that I bring them up at the end of the year is helpful.
Yeah, a little cred. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then a lot of them end up reposting it. So that's the value on Instagram. On LinkedIn, it's a totally different story, which I learned this year.
Tell me more.
So on LinkedIn, there is a limit of how many people you can tag. I believe it's 37 or something arbitrary like that. And on LinkedIn, if on Instagram you tag the filmmakers and the production people, on LinkedIn, I actually tag the people that hired me.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Agencies.
creatives, agencies, all that stuff. Well, and I'll tee you up. Why the difference in tagging strategies between platforms?
Because obviously on Instagram, a lot more like artists, filmmakers, DPs live there. So that's who I'm connected with in my network. On LinkedIn, that's where a lot of the agency people are. I actually have a really hard time finding the agency people on Instagram, and I don't want to be too like looking at pictures of their family and stuff.
Too. Yeah, for sure.
It's a little more lifestyle-y, and LinkedIn is very much made for business. So I feel super comfortable about that. And I did I did Delta's video on how to connect to the Wi-Fi with Cedric the Entertainer and Sonequa Martin Green.
That guy's so entertaining.
Yeah. And I tagged, a couple of the creatives from Delta, and they reposted it. And they're like, we love this. And that got a bunch of people that started following me on LinkedIn.
Here's the other big thing about LinkedIn. The number of people posting on LinkedIn is infinitesimally smaller.
You think so?
Yes, there are far, far, far fewer people posting on LinkedIn than there are on Instagram. There's a ton of people on LinkedIn, but most of them are not posting anything. Think about how casually you'll take a photo and you post it to your story. Think about how often you write an essay or put together a carousel on management tactics or cold outreach or whatever. It's just like the ratios are totally way, way, way off. So you will see analytics, like the impressions on that post for, I guarantee, at least 4 weeks.
Yeah, I have.
The shelf life is way, way, way longer.
I have seen the shelf life is long. And also there's almost no shame on LinkedIn to be like, I'm so proud of my team for putting together this presentation for the award show at this thing,
Sure. Yeah, that's the point.
It's kind of like a bragging platform. It's kind of like your resume come to life, right?
I would hazard, though, that the best people are still additive, are still bringing something to the table outside of bragging. But, here I am. You posted it a few days ago. I was like, oh, I'm going to get it up on Monday. Everybody's back to the office. This will be perfect. And slowed down because I was like, I don't know how to make this not just a resume of like bullet points of like my greatest hits of 2024.
Well, I'm just brainstorming here. Two thoughts. One is I feel like I did post my Instagram posts at the right time because everyone's just at home.
Yeah.
Everyone else is doing it. I was a little bit on the early side. I posted it, I think, on December 31st. And a lot of people, I feel like it started this train going, not just because of me, because so many people were doing it, that people, January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th were still posting their...
You know what? I got a couple follows on December 31st. And I was like, who is, like, from like production companies? I was like, who's following me on New Year's Eve?
Yeah.
I bet it's Halo effect.
From me, yeah, because I tagged you.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And I talked about the podcast, and my additive thing was I listed how many jobs I pitched on, how many I won, and how many people I worked with, and how many podcast episodes I released. I tried to give some stats to make it more useful than just a montage. But so I think Instagram worked out well. LinkedIn, which was a little bit of an afterthought, I feel like I did not post at the right time because I posted it, I think, like on January 3rd or something, or 2nd.
Yeah, that's a miss. And if you'd done it today or tomorrow, maybe.
Yeah, people are not really at work yet. And maybe they're kind of casually looking at LinkedIn, but it's not like Instagram because there's nothing really to look at on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I think I did make a mistake, but my brainstorm idea for you is instead of a look back at 2024 is things I learned for 2025.
Like how I'm changing my 2025.
Or how you make it a forward-looking post.
Yeah.
As opposed to a recap.
Maybe I do both. We'll see. Well, I've got a handful of things that I'm changing about this year. We were talking off the mic. I felt to varying degrees out of sorts for a few years now, honestly. Like, just like not ambitious or not focused or not clear-headed. And look, I think a lot of that had to do with pandemic and 2 strikes and a kid, kind of like that's a real destabilizer, each of those on their own. And so I'm just kind of feeling like this is the first New Year's I've had in a long while where I'm like, yes, I'm ready. Here are my clear goals. This is what I'm moving forward towards. This is how I'm doing it. And so there's a handful of things I wanted to talk to you about. I'll start with maybe the most important for these conversations. Maybe we've talked about it a little bit on the show already. You're a big to-do list guy. I'm a big to-do list guy. We're juggling a bunch of stuff. Ideally, we're writing something creatively, pitching on work for hire job, shooting a work for hire job, and then post on a work for hire job. That is our ideal scenario, is that we are constantly juggling multiple things all the time, right? You're writing a new movie, you're trying to attach to people, and also you're shooting commercials all the time. That is what I'm manifesting for both of us. So that's just constant gear shifts. That's a lot of to-dos. That's an impossible number of to-dos. So instead, every single day, I'm listing 3 priorities.
Like the same 3 priorities?
Nope. Just like, these are the 3 things that I have to do today. These are my priorities. And I've got that to-do list that's running of whatever. I need to like respond to this email or so that or whatever. All that stuff is going to get taken care of, but I do not go to bed until the 3 things that I have are checked off the list.
Couldn't one of them be record a podcast?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And frankly, should be, right? Because to-do lists, this is something Ali Abdaal says, who is a YouTuber I love. To-do lists, they're never ending. You never finish your to-do list. So really, you're just picking, what are you prioritizing? That's what every person is doing. So what are the 3 things that are important to me? I can probably get 3 things done. And then the rest of my life, you still have to make lunch or whatever, or record a podcast. What are those 3 things?
Yeah. And then do you write them the night before?
Ideally, but I've been waking up at 5:30 every morning. So I kind of do it as I'm like having my coffee.
I'll try that. I like that idea. I think that seems worth trying.
I think
it's like you still have your to-do list of 10 things, but these are the 3 must-dos, right?
These are the must-dos, and it just focuses you. And also, honestly, like today I was like trying to sneak a 4th in, and I was like, no, it's not going to work. But so one of them was make a post for social media about my 2024 recap. So I got to do it.
So you have to finish it before midnight or before you go to sleep. And make a post means you post it or you just make it?
I think it could be just make it. Yeah, it could be just make it. And also, like, look, if I don't get it done, it's not the end of the world. But my point is like, I need to know, like, this is what I'm choosing to work on. Right.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I'm going to try to do that. I'll give it a couple weeks. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, give it a shot. I ordered the big ass calendar, which I've talked about. It should be here.
It's just a picture of different people's asses every
it's
month.
Just like huge, juicy butts. No, it's a calendar that you see every single day.
You cannot lie.
It's a calendar where you see every single day of the year in kind of one big
Oh, really?
layout. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's like the nightmare I described about when a producer sends me a calendar.
Yeah, no. So the other guiding principles for this year are going to be, I'm trying to like think of things in like week, month, and quarter increments, basically. So like, okay, what's the big idea for this quarter? What are my weekly goals? And then what are my day-to-day priorities is how I'm breaking it down. So I'm trying to watch 2 movies a week.
What?
That's doable. It's totally doable.
It's totally doable.
One new one old one. It could be for the podcast, but just like stay current and also stay fresh. I've been watching a lot of movies recently, and it's reinvigorated me. It's really made me feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Movies are cool.
Yeah. And also, I'm trying to exercise at lunch.
Before you eat or after?
I'm still debating. I'm dialing it in.
Eat 2 Big Macs and then hit the Nordic track.
No, you do Big Mac, exercise Big Mac. So, you kind of make room. And then this is also one for you, actually, Oren. I've got a pretty clear schedule for my day. I wake up early, I write, get my family going, have breakfast, all that stuff, drop my kid off, first work block, lunch, second work block, pick my kid up, watch a movie. But I'm adding a nighttime from 10 to 11 on days that I'm not teaching or podcasting for busy work specifically. So like social media posts is a really good example, or just like housekeeping, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like you have to be mindful about it. You have to pay attention, but it's not the primo creative hours basically. So, and that's not excluding weekends. So it's really 3 nights a week between podcasting and teaching that I'll be dedicating to
your taxes.
Yeah, stuff like that. Honestly, though, yeah. Speaking of, social media specifically, part of this whole thing is I'm taking the reins on Patreon again.
Our Patreon.
Yeah, digging back in the social media for the show to help like grow the community, basically.
I obviously want to be a part of it, but also just in case you're bored and you're looking for something, I've had many people ask me about Just Shoot It hats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and been annoyed when I'm like, I literally do not have any Just Shoot It.
Yeah.
So, and remember I sent you the other day like a Zazzle type of thing, or like it would be cool to have some merch, because I think, let's say you don't want to sign up for the Patreon, but you want to give us like a one-time support thing. Because
I think we could sell hats again. Here's the bummer about the hats. We were taking a loss on the hats, right?
Oh yeah.
So like basically the bet was that people were going to stay on Patreon for 2 months before we were in the black on them. But that wasn't factually not happening.
Right. I mean, people were literally, Patreon changed how it worked, but when we first did it, people were signing up for the $20 a month Patreon. We were mailing them the hat, and then they were canceling before they even got billed the first time.
And look, I don't think that anyone is doing that intentionally, honestly.
I think so.
But that's how it worked out. And also international shipping, blah, blah, blah. So I think we can work that out, but I want to use Patreon as more of a community, basically, of a message board where we are interacting with people more directly. And that's part of those nighttime blocks.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think another thing we want to do, aside from more live shows, which, we did a couple last year that were really fun, is maybe a few dedicated video episodes where we review people's reels, look at our own work, look at other things, and try to get more of that V in the audio in the AV world that we talk about all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to bring it all back to goals, Oren, I'm going to put those dates on the calendar.
With the live shows?
Of the live shows and the live streams.
Cool.
Now, basically. Like once we're done recording, I was going to be like, hey, let's figure them out.
Okay, yeah.
And look, they're subject to change. You're going to be in Colombia. I'm going to be in London, whatever. Like we're going to be traveling. We're going to have jobs. It's going to be tricky. We've moved.
You're going to be like, sorry, I forgot it was Chrissy's birthday month.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Well, I know we're running out of time, and you predicted that we wouldn't get to all of our questions, but should we answer one question?
Well, no, we got to, what do you, I just talked for 15 minutes. I felt like Oren. It's your turn. What are you doing for 2025? Well, how are you adjusting your life in order to achieve your goals?
My story was about the reel I made and then getting your opinion on it.
That's it? You're not going to change it? You're not changing up anything?
I want to. I'm not prepared for this question.
Excuse me. You're pretty regimented. You've already got, you're pretty well.
Well, so what's funny is today,
it's documented on the show pretty well.
Today I saw Roxy at Cafecito Organico.
Oh, good.
In the morning.
Tacos with it this week.
Oh, cool. And it was just after I had finished running. And she's like, yeah, Oren, fuck yeah, go for it. You're doing it.
Yeah.
You're running. I'm like, yeah, but I've been doing this for since September. So it's not a New Year's thing. Okay. I know there's every single person in Silver Lake that's running on the street right now.
Yeah.
It's their New Year's resolution. But A, I'm not doing dry January. I'm drinking.
January. Yeah.
And B, I've been running for a few months. So I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. But yeah, I want to keep up the regimen of my morning exercise. And I noticed I already was kind of this morning, my producer's like, hey, what time can you do the scout tomorrow? They're on East Coast time, so we're 3 hours ahead. And I was like, well, normally I take my daughter to school at 8 and then I exercise till 9. But, I don't have to exercise, I guess. And he's like, no, it's okay. We'll just tell him you can only start at 9. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But I think
starting at 9 is a totally normal thing to do.
So something I'm trying to get my brain used to is to just say for real carve out time for myself and not just hope to do it when it's convenient for everyone else. Yeah. We'll see if it works. That's not my strong suit.
I think you just do a little bit of time blocking. That's why I'm all about the philosophies around your week, is because if you have achievable but flexible goals, that's how you can kind of keep them. Oh, I forgot my last most important one. You're going to like this.
Yeah.
So I mentioned I have the calendar. I have gold star stickers.
Okay.
And every day that I write, I give myself a gold star for the day.
Okay. And you think that will be a motivation?
Yeah. Well, you've heard of don't break the chain.
Yeah. The morning page is streaks, Duolingo.
Yeah. I think there's a Seinfeld episode where Jerry puts a paperclip on the paperclip. He makes a chain of paper clips. And every day he does something. I can't remember what it is. He puts another paper clip on it. There's real psychology to that. So like seeing like, oh, I had a gold star week. Every day I wrote. You know?
I mean, I'm doing pretty good on this, the steps.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all real, man.
Like that. I've been hitting my 10, not super consistently, but my 10,000 average.
Yeah, little dopamine hit.
11,000 average. So I feel like that's one of my things where I'm like, literally I was in Thailand one night and I only had like 6,000 steps. And I'm like, I'm just walking back and forth in this hotel room.
Oh boy. I've done that many times. That's rough. Because you're like, oh, I should just go around the block or something. This is crazy.
Well, yeah, it was like,
sure.
You know,
it's 3 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, that's cool. I'm curious about the gold star. I mean, we've tried to do that type of thing with our kids, like 1,000 different versions of it. None of it sticks.
Well, I think to be fair, your daughter's old enough to get it, but like we would do like, you know, stickers for this or that or whatever. But like, if you don't know what day of the week it is or what days of the week are, beyond the fun of putting up the sticker, like the cognition of like a streak or a cause and effect, all that stuff, it just takes a while to develop.
Yeah, we'll see. There's Christy, she had like 1,000-day streak of morning pages, right? She's still doing it?
She had like way more than 1,000 days. Like she was like next level. And then when our baby was born, she missed a day or two and broke the streak.
House of cards and came falling.
Yeah, and then she's back on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think still in like sub 100, but like on it. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, which is honestly, I think, more commendable to be like, hey, I've got like 3,000 days in a row of this thing, and then I missed one, and now I've got 25.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. Anyway. Enough about how cool my wife is. You want to hit a question, Oren?
Yeah, let's do this one question from John Schwartz. I'm going to read it.
Hit it.
My name's John Schwartz and I'm a commercial director. You can Google him, John Schwartz, director. Have you done this yet? You can Google it while I read the question so you can see his type of work and kind of level of work. He said, just listen to your persuasive communication episode. Really great stuff. I know you both typically work in the comedy space, but I'm curious about pitching on non-comedy work and how you'd best approach getting your thesis or point of view across in a deck with the clarity and conciseness you spoke about on that episode. I feel like most of the stuff I pitch on doesn't necessarily require a quote unquote take, but more of an approach. Or maybe that's a blind spot I've got. I definitely feel like I have a tendency to be wordy and take a second to get to the core of what my approach is when pitching. Would love any advice as I'm working on improving that. So I think this is actually a really good and great nuanced question.
Yeah, great question. Also, John, your work is awesome.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of it around. I think I've seen it on TV. I've definitely seen a lot of it in social. Him and I follow each other. I think we might have pitched against each other. We've definitely used a lot of the same actors. Yeah, his work is really good. He says he's not a comedy guy, but his stuff is bright and poppy.
Yeah,
and kind of has a sense of humor to it.
He's got a Sega Sonic Superstars that like I feel like you would have pitched on.
Yeah, no, we definitely overlap. And his work is definitely good. And he does a lot of commercials. And he's
got an Urban Outfitters anthem spot where a guy is like skateboarding into a swimming pool and just falls into the pool. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
That's a great joke. That's really funny.
Like because it has water in it.
Yeah. It's like he's about to like drop in and then it's just like splash.
Yeah. He also, he does that same thing. I 100% did not start this. It was recommended to me by Matt Lancaster, Media Monks, to use GIFs for my images. But I do feel like sometimes we talk about things on this podcast and then like a month later, every single director is doing them and he's got that. And I think it looks so good. Like
it looks good.
It's johnschwartz.com is his website, JON.
Look, I don't think we can take credit for using GIFs as thumbnails.
No, but the point is his work is good and he's not like a beginner filmmaker. So he's asking this question, right? How do you give your take? This is something that for years I struggled with, right? Because as we all know, when sometimes you're pitching on a job, on a commercial, some people are really specific about what they want. They literally give you storyboards. Okay, it starts out close up on this woman, then cut to an insert of her phone, then cut
you're
to
saying
a wide.
The agency. The agency gives you storyboards, basically.
The agency or the client or whoever is hiring you to make this thing, sometimes they're like, I want this. I want it to look like this. Here's a reference. Here's the North Star.
Sometimes you're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Especially at like big agencies. Like when the job's good, sometimes you're like, well, there's no room for me to do my thing.
Right.
Like, what are you looking for?
Jordan Brady says this all the time. He's like, the deck you gave me is better than the deck I'm going to make to respond to you about how I'm going to shoot this.
Yeah.
So how do you find your take? And I think...
And how do you communicate your take? I think he's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think John's not like, hey, I don't know what I'm saying. He's saying, how do I say what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, he's saying my stuff doesn't necessarily require a take, but more of an approach. And
Which is the same, right?
I do think they're the same. Yeah. What's your take on this? And you can answer that with your approach. So what does approach even mean in filmmaking? I think in feature films, you can talk a little bit more about themes and structure and big things. In commercials or short form stuff,
the big question, all of that stuff. Yeah.
It's a little harder. I think for me, like an example of my work, it's like that Rebel Wilson spot I talk about all the time, it was given to me as Rebel Wilson walking behind the scenes of a movie set, causing all this havoc, messing up cue cards, mixing up hot sauces, all these things. Every single thing was really funny. They had little storyboards, I think, when they came to me. And so what I brought to that project is I said, well, what is this movie set that she's on? What's the movie she's shooting? And they're like, it can be anything. We kind of thought it's just like an amalgamation of a bunch of movies. And I had my approach, which it may be a different director would have a different approach. A different director would say like, yeah, it would be awesome to have range and show like this little rom-com thing and this little horror thing and this action thing.
She's strolling through the back lot.
Yeah.
And it's like they're shooting, a Busby Berkeley piece on stage 1 and Jurassic Park on stage 2. So like we get to do both, right?
Yeah. The Pee Wee Herman thing, like, let's go. But I made a choice. I was like, look, Rebel is hilarious and she does a lot of action movies. Even the Pitch Perfect 3 stuff she's done is like very action based in the whole opening. I'm just going to make it an action movie and lean it. So my approach...
What was the action movie you cited? Did you say like, hey, we're behind the scenes on something specific or no?
I pulled from a bunch of things, but originally I was trying to get a New York street, like a backlot.
Funny.
We were going to shoot at this like really inexpensive backlot, Santa Clarita. There's a place called Santa Clarita Studios. They have a New York street, which I'm assuming most people listening to this podcast know what a New York street is, but it's a street that looks like New York, but it's just the facade. It's just that, there isn't anything, but you can dress it to look like any businesses, any time period, whatever. You have a street, you own the whole street, you have some corners and things. And so we were going to shoot there, but due to some logistical issues, we had to shoot either Universal, Paramount, or Fox lot. Those were our only 3 options. None of their New York streets were available. But I had already planned this whole thing for New York Street, which to me, like an action scene in New York Street is like...
Sure, makes sense. Yeah.
Either like Spider-Man, I think, or like Batman, or like Mission Impossible, or like kind of... There's kind of these very New Yorky driving through tall buildings, like the downtown LA Batman sequence.
Sure.
And so there was actually a Doritos commercial for the Super Bowl that has kind of like this chase scene with the older, like the grandmas getting the Doritos that was done really well. But when the only street that was available was the European street at Universal. And a lot of times when you're pitching, you're like kind of trying to secure locations before you even have the job. So we were already knew while I was pitching that like, we can only get this European street where they shot The Good Place. Then my references have changed more to like Born Identity.
I was going to say, yeah. Or The Italian Job.
Yes.
Like
the Italian Job was big on it. Like I was like,
Thomas Crown Affair or no?
I didn't have Thomas Crown Affair. I did have Mission Impossible still because they've traveled to all these different countries.
Sure. Yeah, but I don't think actually Mission Impossible is ever in New York. I think it's almost always international.
No, I think you're right. But I love the idea of having like Mini Coopers, like classic Mini Coopers on cobblestone roads. I love the idea of like carrying giant art pieces of art, like statues and things. And then helicopter, and then...
Does she have a briefcase ever? Or like, it's more Bond, basically.
Yeah, Bond. Yeah. It's very Bond. There, in the beginning, she walks by a props table, and there's like a briefcase filled with cash, and it says, props do not touch. And then she just touches them, and she picks up a pair of nunchucks, and then accidentally breaks the camera. But so my whole approach is like, she's on the behind the scenes of an action movie, and I love your ideas. Here's like 5, like, I'm going to take your 7 funny ideas. 3 of them don't really make sense for an action movie, so I'm going to change them to action movie ideas.
Yeah.
And her wardrobe is going to be like a freaking badass, like Charlie's Angels jumpsuit.
Yeah. So I think maybe what I'm hearing is that we have the benefit of, as comedy directors, being able to plus jokes, which are really tangible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe they're funnier or maybe not, or maybe they're like more sharp, right? Like you were saying, the jokes that she had were funny, but you made them apply more directly to the theme. And
I was trying to unify them. Yeah.
unify it. Yeah, right. So like that's something like people can understand, like, oh, I get why Oren is doing this, right? So those are really, really clear signposts of like, this is what Oren is doing. And if you're more lifestyle, even more lifestyle than what looks like John's work is, it's kind of like, okay, well, it's supposed to be cool. And I have an idea of what cool is, but like beyond these references, how do I articulate that?
Right.
I imagine the challenge, right? It's kind of like when we get to the camera slide of our presentation, of our pitch, how many times have I said it'll be an active camera or details or lush or energetic or motivated? You kind of just start using kind of like terminology that hopefully is grounded in something that you've set up already.
Yeah,
but
like platitudes.
Yeah, platitudes, exactly.
Well, I think I have an answer that works pretty well always, which is, it's actually, when I applied to AFI, they asked me about this and they're like, this is the most important part of filmmaking. And I never even really heard anyone talk about it before, but it's a term POV, or point of view, and even if you're doing a lifestyle commercial for Airbnb and the agency comes to you and they're like, hey, here's some storyboards. Here's like a couple, swimming in a pool together on their honeymoon. And here's like family playing in the yard because they don't have a yard in their apartment. They're showing you all these cool images. If you just say like, okay, my approach is I want to be in there. I don't want to just be observing them. I want to be in there. I want to feel that. Like, let's do some POV shots, let's tell this story here. Or like, let's see the camera diving in the pool with the hands in front of it. Or
really, you're talking about specifics, right? Right. It's not, because I think maybe what John is saying is that he does have that POV, right?
No, I'm saying is pitch the POV. Like say,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And this is how we're going to do
of how you execute the perspective, the POV.
Yeah. Like John has this commercial for Joybird that's like really awesome camera moves and things. And there's like a shot where this woman puts her hand on the couch and the camera just sweeps past her hand and across and just shows how luxurious this couch is and how it flows effortlessly and seamlessly. And everyone, when they get a new piece of furniture, they put their hand on there. So maybe that's like his approach is like, we're going to start with like that thing that you always do. You feel the furniture, but then we're going to pull out in the one seamless camera move to see you, the emotion that it elicits on you.
Well, so you use the word luxurious, right? And I think that, to me, just in pitching that camera move, is the difference between POV and not, right? Like, to me, you could tell us what you want to do. Like, hey, I think we shoot it with a wide angle lens and we have a really smooth camera move that starts close and pulls out wide and you see the whole couch, right? But what's the point? Why? Why would you do that? Because you're trying to evoke luxury, right? Because you're trying to show off the product, because you're trying to make people feel something about the product. That's the POV, right? It's the why, not the what or the how, right? And that's always going to be a weird challenge. Can I do a quick tangent though? You said your AFI interview.
Yeah.
In the AFI interview, they talked about POV. And do you know that guy Kareem? He's on TikTok. You've probably seen his Instagrams as well, where he says, "What's your take?" He's on the subway and he's like interviewing people. It's like him and a comedian or a pundit or whoever. They're sitting on the subway and they've got like mics on the Metro card. Have you seen this guy?
Maybe.
It's like Subway Takes, maybe is what it's called. Anyway, it's quite popular and I love the show very much. But there was a woman on who was like, "Film school is overrated. Don't go to film school." That's my take. Film school is like, you're just in a bubble and you don't have anything to say if you're just surrounded by other film students, which is a valid criticism of film school. However, I think there's this weird overemphasis on a personal story that needs to feel like totally otherworldly or totally exoticized or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of filmmakers out there who feel really homogenous, right? Because they come from a similar background. And, like the fact of the matter is, like, to go to film school means that you are of a certain means, most likely, that your parents are okay with you spending a bunch of money, and you've watched a bunch of movies and decided that you're not going to be a lawyer or a doctor or a tradesperson of some, like you can just go be an artist. Like that's a privilege is what I'm getting at. And so that's a homogenous group of people, and that is problematic when you're trying to make auteurs. But if you are a working filmmaker, that doesn't mean that like you can't still have something interesting to say. Do you know what I mean? It's just like this very common trope that I've heard a lot and came up today on my feed, and then you echoed again. Like,
yeah,
what makes you unique and special is going to evolve. And like, just because you went to a film school doesn't negate that. And I think that's commonly a thing that people say,
For sure. I think when I was an engineer, I would interview a lot of engineers, because
sure.
That, like anyone that might work on our team, we would all interview.
Yeah.
And I would ask them like, tell me like why you like this database system, or tell me about some project that you made and like what were some of the challenges and how you overcame things like that. And just hearing them talk about it will give you an idea of if they know what they're doing as an engineer or not. And if they're just thinking in an interesting way. I think when I went to that AFI interview, this was in 2006, I believe. I did not get into AFI, but I did make it to the interview, which was pretty cool. I think it was the question was something to the effect of, talk to us about the importance of point of view in a scene.
Oh, I see.
And I was like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah. And it's sort of valid, and it's sort of totally invalid to me, is what I'm saying. Like, it's valid in the way that John's asking. Like, have an opinion about how this should be shot in a way that evokes the feelings that you're trying to evoke. But like, your personal journey informs that, sure. And you're going to shoot it differently than anybody else is going to shoot it. But that doesn't have to be so far-flung to be valid. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes academia can intimidate people in that way.
Yeah. I want to say one last story about kind of John's question and like an approach that I think is interesting. It's not comedy specific, but I pitched this orange juice commercial a few years ago. Florida's natural orange juice. It's this really fun concept.
Sure. Did you not get it? Or you did, right?
I will tell you.
Sorry.
Now that you don't know, it's even better.
Stepping on the... Anyway.
So the concept was this mom and her son are in the grocery store. And the son is like, or the mom says, can you grab some orange juice? And he's like, sure, which one? And she's like, doesn't matter. They're all the same. And as he walks up to the orange juice case, like the entire grocery store comes apart and reveals that they are actually in an orange farm for Florida's Natural. And a farmer's like, are you kidding? Dude, that's not all the time. Florida's Natural is so much better. And here's all the reasons why. And he's handing them the orange juice and they're like enlightened, like, oh, wow, this is so good. And when we were pitching on this, they said, we absolutely have to shoot this on a real orange farm in Florida where they make Florida. That's part of the campaign. We shoot on real farms. We do this, we do that. So we're like, okay, great. You handed us the solution. We're going to build a grocery store on a farm. We're just going to build a couple aisles and we're going to put green screen. It's a little like on the verge of LED walls. Like Mandalorian was the only one doing it at the time. And I literally built the entire store in Blender. I showed them how it was going to come apart. Here's this thing, like the ceiling's going to open. We're going to see like a farmer up there, like the floor is going to unfold. I did the whole thing. We're going to like build our set on two different like doorway dollies that open up. And the whole plan was based on this thing. And then I was like, we were going back and forth, and it turns out the orange groves don't have oranges on them at the time that we're shooting, and the weather's kind of bad. So now we're going to have to bring in all our own fake oranges. We're doing this, and some trees are a little sick, so we're going to bring in our own trees, and whatever. It just became this really complicated thing, but I felt so good. And I was like, my pitch is so solid. I have all these amazing references. I have this whole 3D set built and that was my approach. I'm like, this is how we're going to do it. Basically what you told us. Anyway, I did not get that. The person that got that job is JJ Adler, who's an amazing director. She called them. She's like, there's no way that this should be shot on real orange grove. That is a horrible idea. From what I hear, the oranges aren't even in season. Building a whole set, we would, in case it rains, we would have to do it the morning of the shoot. We're not going to make a great set. It's going to feel really cheap. It's not going to work well. If there's any issues, we have we're basing this on sunlight. It's just not a good idea. Let's shoot it in LA. Let's build it on a stage. I have an amazing VFX partner that's going to make the orange grove look amazing, better than the real orange grove. And this is what we should do. And they were like, and here's his work, the VFX guy's work. Mm-hmm. Here's this is the stage. Sure. This is how we're going to keep it under budget.
No blender mock-up. Yeah.
And they're like, okay, yeah, we stand corrected. You're right. And so even though they told us exactly how they wanted us to pitch it, and we did what they did, and we solved all their issues, someone else came with her approach. And ultimately, like if you look at the storyboards of what she shot versus what I would have shot, they're really similar. They're almost identical to each other. Yeah. Like the shot list is almost the same thing because they came to us with storyboards. So she didn't like come up with this whole new way to tell the story, but she came up with a whole new way to shoot the story in a way where you get good takes, you get good actors, you get good performances. You're in control of your destiny in a way that I was kind of rolling the dice, like hopefully this will work out. This is the only thing we can do because you told us to do it. So to me, like when you think about your approach, it's really easy to be like, well, I guess I'll just shoot what you tell me. But saying, hey, we're going to shoot this in Mexico. Hey, we're going to bring these actors. Like I did this thing in Mexico City where people are flying in the air. And my pitch was like, we're going to cast freaking Cirque du Soleil people to be flying in the air. And it's going to look awesome as office workers. Of course, they ended up killing that whole idea of casting them. And it was a little bit of a disaster in the end. But as a director, you're in charge of the camera. You're in charge of casting. You're in charge of locations, art direction, wardrobe. Those are basically the things you can control. So if you have no new ideas, try to come to them and just tell them how fabulous one of those things will be. And we have this amazing interview on this very podcast you're listening to with a director named Hannah Lux Davis. And the way she talks about makeup will make you want to hire her for any music video you ever make.
Makeup, choreography, just her whole visual approach, but I think she was a makeup artist, in her earliest version of her career. But yeah, like the Hannah conversation was so good because it was just like, she came from such a different background than us.
Yeah. And it was, even though she went to film school too.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess her approach was totally different. She's not pitching jokes. She's like, this is how you make something glamorous or luxurious or poppy or grungy, like stuff that people don't ask us to do nearly as much.
Yeah. When you and I would come with like, oh, it'll be this really cool drone shot.
Yeah.
She was like, this is how you make somebody famous and memorable.
Yeah.
This is, we're going to take this singer and turn them into a star.
Even if that's a drone shot.
Yeah.
Right.
But she comes from such a place of authority on how the look, on how we know about Lady Gaga and we know about Britney Spears and we know about Katy Perry because of these visuals that they put, their face is a brand. Yeah. And you and I would probably not, it wouldn't occur to us to start in that, about.
Yeah. I'd be like, wouldn't it be funny if Lady Gaga was lip syncing on this one? Yeah. Well, Oren, that was great. John, let us know how things go. Your work is awesome. It's really cool. And keep in touch.
Yeah. Hopefully our usual non-answer is helpful.
I feel pretty good about the answer, actually. But if you have more questions for us, or you want to talk with us, you can join the Patreon. That's the best way to have direct access to us. Or you can just shoot us an email at justshootitpod@gmail.com or on social media at justshootitpod. We're not really on Twitter as much anymore. Instagram's really the spot for us. But yeah, Oren, do you have a few more moments to hang out and endorse with me?
Unpaid endorsements.
Like I said, I've been watching a lot of movies. And have you watched My Neighbor Totoro with your kids?
No, is it good?
It's great. It's
Neighbor Totoro?
Yeah, it's
an anime.
Yeah, it's Miyazaki. So like, yes, the anime, but like, you've seen Totoro before. Anyway, that's not my endorsement, but watch it with your kids. My endorsement's Thelma on Hulu. Starring June Squibb. Tyler, our producer, saw it months ago and was like, this movie's so good, you got to get the filmmakers on. We didn't. I slept on it. Tyler, you were right. The movie is a real delight and was really, really fun. Short and sweet. And kind of like, people always say like, they don't make movies like they used to anymore. And Thelma is like just like a funny, small, weird, well-performed caper starring a 93-year-old woman. So for the uninitiated...
No, is she 93?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, maybe...
June Squibb. Born in 1929. What would that make her? 70 plus 24. 94, 95.
She's 96 now. Yeah.
Oh, damn.
When she shot it. So, yeah. So for the people who don't know, Thelma is about a woman, June Squibb, who gets scammed out of a bunch of money and decides to take money into her own hands. And it becomes this caper where she's trying to get the money back, but it feels like a action movie. And they do all these action movie set pieces. Early on, she like is watching a Mission Impossible movie and she's like, I can't believe Tom Cruise does all his own stunts. And then they kind of map out a car chase or like, you know, a hacking sequence, or like she has a guy in the van, all of these kind of like action movie tropes, but as though a 90-year-old woman is doing them. So with a car chase, rather than, it being in a sports car or even a Mini Cooper, it's on a scooter.
Yeah.
Like a Lark, scooter. It's great. It was really fun. Performances are great. It's awesome. I really loved it. So that's my endorsement. Thelma. It's on Hulu.
Yeah, I saw it too. The director, Josh Margolin, he was on the Creative Screenwriting podcast talking about how he came up with the script and the set pieces.
Yeah, I guess he had a similar relationship with his grandma. So there's kind of like a Josh stand-in character.
Yeah, I love that actor, by the way. It's the guy from White Lotus.
He's so good. He's so good.
He's the brother from season 1. Yeah, he is really enjoyable to watch and so relatable.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I have 3 quick endorsements. 2 are kid related, so that's why the third one is I just threw in here to give you non-kid people. One is super obvious, but I'm freaking really loving Skeleton Crew. I'm watching it with both my kids.
Oh.
Yeah, my 3-year-old and my 8-year-old. And really,
there's like lightsabers and blasters and stuff, though, right?
The opening sequence, they do laser blast a bunch of people to death, but you don't see anyone. There's no blood or anything. It's like very Star Wars. It's like
I've tried to watch Star Wars with my daughter, who is a similar age, starting with A New Hope, obviously, Release Order, and like Darth Vader's like in shot 3 of that movie. Do you know what I mean? And he's scary.
He is scary. The opening of this is just watch the first episode on your own and see what you think. The opening scene is probably the scariest scene of the whole thing, but the stars of it are kids. Like I think the main actors are like 10 to 13 years old.
Yeah.
And admittedly, my son is a little young for it. I said today to him, I was like, tomorrow's Tuesday. We're gonna watch the next episode. They come out on Tuesdays, and he's like, that show's too scary. And I was like, okay, fine, no TV then. And he's like, okay, I'll watch it. But it's created by these 2 guys, John Watts and Christopher Ford, who I've been fans of both of them for many years. They used to have a YouTube channel called Waverly Flams. Then John Watts made Cop Car with Kevin Bacon. Then he made freaking Spider-Man Homecoming. And Christopher Ford is just like one of the funniest writers I've ever followed.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was those guys. That's great.
And they're the creators. And John Favreau and Dave Filoni or whatever, the Star Wars guys are like overseeing it. But the directors so far have been John Watts directed like the first 2 episodes. Then it was Dave Lowry who did, Buff Magic Dragon and like Ghost Story and
Green Knight and
Green Knight. Yeah. And then it was freaking the Daniels.
Yeah.
And then it was Bryce Dallas Howard did the last episode I saw. So pretty freaking awesome directors. Cool. And one of the main guys, Tunde, that acts in it is a dad from my daughter's preschool. So
cool. That's awesome. Yeah. That's really fun.
He's also the like lead singer of TV on the Radio. You know that band. But
sure. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm really enjoying it. It's like so fun and totally family friendly. So my other cool kid thing we got for Christmas was this puzzle. It's a brand called Cobble Hill, and it comes with family pieces. Have you heard of this?
No.
So I don't know if you can see from my video, but the puzzle comes in 3 sizes of pieces, big, medium, and small. And the big ones are all in the bottom half of the puzzle. And then it's like the medium pieces, and then the small pieces are like the top right. So your like 3-year-old can be working on the big pieces. Your 8-year-old can be working on the medium pieces, and the adults can be working on the small pieces, all in the same puzzle at the same time. My dog did eat one of the big pieces, and then my son lost 6 of the small pieces, so we didn't quite get the full picture. But it's this really cool puzzle of like planets and stuff.
It's cool. It's like awesome, man.
On Mars, and you can see all the other planets. So that's cool. And then my last thing for non-kid people is just a director website that I really like. There's this director named Jesse James McElroy. His website is Jesse James MCELROY McElroy. He happens to follow me on Instagram, which is how I found out about him. I think he followed me actually after I posted my 2024 video. And he's Australian, and the EP I just worked with in Thailand knows him also. But if you go to his website, he has really freaking awesome commercials. But if you click on any of the commercials, he's made a behind the scenes video, and they're all really good. Like he builds devices, and every single thing he shoots has like some very cool element to it, like either miniatures or if you check out his Whitaker's Whispered thing, it's where like this woman is like whispering to chocolate and the whole conference table like angles towards her for the chocolate to get to her mouth, and all the behind the scenes. It's really cool. And it just, if you ever feel like commercials are boring, like go to this guy's website, click on any one of these spots and look at how the insane things they built to accomplish them.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's
awesome, dude. That's a really good one. Jesse James McElroy. If you're listening, your work is awesome. This is cool. Everyone should go to this website. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really actually this Westinghouse fish one where this fish is like jumping all over the kitchen, and they actually built the fish. It has such good sound design. I've sent it as a reference, a sound design reference to like my editor. Anyhow, if you want to endorse something, email it to us, justshootapod@gmail.com. You can follow us across all social media at Just Shoot a Pod. I think you already said that. You can follow me. I'm on Instagram at @okaplan.
And I'm at Mr. Matt Enlow. This episode was edited by Kevin L. Yang. Thanks, Kevin. And produced by Tyler Small. And you're listening to music provided by the Free Music Archive and the artist, Jahzzar. Thanks, everyone. Happy 2025.
Bye.
Bye.